outbreak of virus overseas and has caused a profound grief and suffering at home. Conflicts. A continent always created unrest. Sorry, let me turn it. Yeah. A conflict always created unrest. I'm sorry, this thing is not really portrayed so that I can see clearly. Okay, I'm sure this is much better. Anyway, the conflict continent can create an unrest that challenges our own security. The economic downturn abroad means a loss of jobs, shuttering down businesses down across America. So he analyzed the global affairs. It's not just the crisis in Southern Cameroon, but he narrowed that this is just a global crisis in which he himself is personally taking it vital for his administration. As a president, I am determined to repair alliances, renew our leadership in the international institution, reclaim our credibility, and equip America's middle class in global economy. That was the President of the United States in a letter he sent to me. One thing that there are so many of you, for anyone that is interested about these letters can let me know, and I will also forward a copy of that letter. But however, what is particularly interesting is I appreciate sharing your view with me, and I will keep your perspective on the important issues in mind as we work to meet the challenges of our time. It means he acknowledged what I presented on behalf of the people of Southern Cameroon Ambazonians. He acknowledged that I appreciate sharing your view with me, and I will keep you in perspective on the importance issues in mind as we work to meet the challenges of our time. This was sent to me immediately when he was about to address the United Nations. And this is very, very particularly important to me because I believe that for so many of you who may be watching now live, and you may be wondering, why is it this very important? It is very important because the people of Southern Cameroon, because when you look at globally, people always think Cameroon. Cameroon is just unanimously not a single nation. Cameroon is just like Canada. They belong to two colonial masters, the British and the French. When the United Nations was formed in 1945, both United Nations members agreed that all the territory that belongs to the former Germans should be given their rightful independence. The people of Southern Cameroon meet all these criteria of the United Nations. In fact, prior to the United Nations decisions, the United Nations requests that all those territories be prepared for a sovereign independence. And that in line with the United Nations Resolution 1540 XV. The United Nations Resolution 1540 required that all the territories that were under the colonial administration be given their rightful independence. Southern Cameroon meet the criteria set forth by the United Nations. So it is very, very frustrating to see many people giving the wrong impression, including some of our citizens, Southern Cameroon and Nigeria. But to be clear, for the Nigerians that are watching this broadcast live, I want to make a clear distinction. Southern Cameroon is not the same as the Biafran case. Because many people will just say, oh yeah, everything sounds the same. Southern Cameroon is not unanimously the same with the Biafran case. That does not imply that the Biafran cannot seek for their own sovereign nation when there is an ample evidence that there is a violation and prosecution of the indigenous people by the central government of Nigeria. But however, in terms of classification, the people of Nigeria, the people of Biafra are not unanimously the same. So it is a classical distinction. So our people, our citizens are in Nigeria, and we appreciate their relentless providing an environment for the people of Southern Cameroon to be able to sit and have a nice day during this crisis in Southern Cameroon. So why is it different? Because when in 1960, following United Nations Resolution 1514, it states that those territories be given the rightful independence. So Biafra, or they call Biafra, sorry for the flag for falling, were part of Nigeria that were submitted to the United Nations for in recognition of a sovereign state to meet the United Nations Resolution 1514 XV. So, on the question of Southern Cameroon is another distinction for many people tend to call the people of Southern Cameroon as a separatist. There is a great distinction between a separatist and the people of Southern Cameroon doesn't fall in that category of separatists. And that is why I want to make it sure that those who might not be aware, let them get this clean and clear. The people of Southern Cameroon is not a separatist. The people are restorationists. They restore their territory that were fraudulently manipulated by La Republique du Cameroun and France. So there is a great distinction. If you want to call the people of Southern Cameroon restorationists, yes, that makes sense. That makes clear, distinctive sense and to understand of a common person. But when you call separatists, you're absolutely wrong, morally wrong, and you give your own level of poor judgment, poor understanding, and you have dictionary everywhere that can give you the clear distinction between a separatist and a restorationist. Let's look more in-depth analysis. Let's look. When littoral, for example, a littoral is a province in La Republique. When littoral choose to leave La Republique du Cameroun to become a sovereign nation, littoral is part of La Republique because in 1960, when France tabled La Republique du Cameroun for United Nations as a sovereign state, sovereign nation, littoral was part of La Republique. If the Hausas in Grand Nord means Adamawa, Extreme Nord, and all the three states they call Grand Nord, if they choose to begin a war against La Republique for their own sovereign nation, they are a separatist because they were originally part of La Republique du Cameroun in 1960 when their independence was granted. When the Western province choose to leave La Republique du Cameroun, that is called a separatist because they were part of La Republique. I understand some of them, they call themselves the Republic of Grassfield, the Western province. That makes sense because they are separatists. That is a great distinction between what is a separatist. Separatist doesn't mean, so separatist does not unanimously applicable to the people of Southern Cameroon. The people of Southern Cameroon are restorationists. What is a restorationist? They restore the former state that was fraudulently misappropriated by La Republique du Cameroun and France with the complicity of Great Britain. Why is this very important? That is why I present, as you look in between me and the President of the United States, is Jongu Foncha and A.N. Joa. Those are the two heads of state of Southern Cameroon. And that is why I am bringing this, because it is crucial and it is very, very important to make this distinction for the understanding of an honorary man. That is why I wanted everybody to share this video, because I don't want any person to be confused of what is a separatist, because I saw many journalists across Southern Cameroon and those of the Anglo-Saxon extraction still call the people of Southern Cameroon as a separatist. So, because there is lack of knowledge and skill to understand the word separatist, because when you understand the word, you better utilize it in an appropriate way. So there is a great distinction between separatists, called the people of Ambazonia that are fighting for independence, for freedom, as a restorationist, because they restore what belongs to them that was fraudulently carried out by La Republique du Cameroun with the complicity of France and Great Britain. So, let's look now on the Southern Cameroon, who is a separatist. When the people of Southern Cameroon, either southwest or northwest, as classified by La Republique du Cameroun, which is not our own classification, because we are intended to modernize it, called a federal structure, because that is what we are familiar and unanimously certain. So, if Southern Cameroon, if Northwest choose to leave the Southern Cameroon or the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, that is called a separatist within the Southern Cameroon. If Southwest choose to, that is called a separatist, because originally, when the Great Britain in 1961 present the people of Southern Cameroon to United Nations. So it is very, very crucial and very important to understand this great distinction, because once you understand this great distinction, then you can now understand why is it imperative that there should be a separation between La Republique du Cameroun and the people of Southern Cameroon. Of course, La Republique over time has distorted historical facts and present those historical facts as though it is a reality, and many people grew up to assume to be a reality, which is a totally false. So therefore, the people of Southern Cameroon is now to uproot all those fraudulence that were instituted upon the people of Southern Cameroon and replace the reality for the good understanding of historical facts. Let's look at the United States. United States did not distort fact. That is why when you come to United States and you are to study, you would take government 1 and 2, history 1 and 2, political science. Why is it required that you must take this? Is to understand the functionality of the United States government, so that when you will be working in this system, you are familiar with the system. It is not just, but La Republique distorted historical facts and present wrong facts and pursue that fact to be the reality. And that is why we are in these problems. So, let's look,
nation that you call yours,
or anywhere
people
in the
can
world.
do what has been done to our children in West
Defend the
Cameroon.
rights of LGBT.
I call it West Cameroon because you will never take it out of our mouths again, because that is a territory in which we believe in freedom. To go out in the street and demonstrate.
Il n'y avait pas offrande. Pourquoi Franck, il n'y en a pas offrande? partagé ces messages. Vous avez vu les militaires pleurer. Vous avez vu ces militaires. Ils savent qu'ils vont tomber demain. Ils enterrent leurs frères. Mais ces militaires savent que leurs jours sont comptés. Parce qu'ils vont devoir entrer au front. Elle n'a pas demandé d'être militaire. Elle n'a pas demandé à prendre une arme, à se retourner contre ses frères. Elle n'a pas demandé à être une meurtrière.
That is the neighboring country's citizens feeling the pain. They're feeling the pain. That is the pain our people were going through. Country like Republique du Cameroon president declare war on our people. Our people. And one wondering whether does La Republique has the audacity to control our people. Now, he chooses to declare war and start infringing upon the right of our people. So let's just hold on. Let me go straight to, although I don't have the particular message, let's listen to him addressing the Paris Club. Let's listen to him addressing the Paris Club. Let's go to this first before we listen to him.
Right for us. And that is why we are saying that there are two Cameroons that came together. If you are telling us, like the state ministers took here last year and told us that what happened in Cameroon is like dropping a few cubes of sugar into a basin of water. Who is the sugar and who is the water? I'm asking.
On avait la possibilité de les intégrer directement dans le système francophone, qui était celui de la majorité du peuple, 80%. Mais je crois que les pays sont soucieux aujourd'hui d'affirmer leur identité. Et c'est pour ça que nous mettons sur pied un statut spécial qui reconnaît la spécificité de la zone anglophone, mais elle reste dans l'intégrité territoriale du Cameroun. Ça donne beaucoup de progrès.
Please, if you, we understand.
You listen to him. That was the president of the neighboring country, La Republique du Cameroun, and in their overdue mafia to dislodge and dismantle the government of Southern Cameroon. And it began with his previous predecessor, Amadou Ahidjo. And that is why that question was posed on him in the Paris Club, in which he clearly states exactly what is behind the dismantling of the Southern Cameroon territory. Not a dismantled Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon, for those who are just watching now for the first time, who are not fully aware of historical fact, Southern Cameroon is the first in West Africa. Is the first in West Africa to elect a prime minister and transfer power from an elected prime minister to the next elected prime minister and accepted to become member of the opposition. When Endele was the first prime minister of Southern Cameroon, When he lost in a subsequent election, he became the leader of the House of Assembly in Southern Cameroon, while Jongu Foncha became the Prime Minister. It was the first of its kind in West Africa to experience, before the giant Nigeria that you see on the giant Nigeria and the rest of Ghana and all the rest. Southern Cameroon, a smallest country with the most valuable democratic institutions, elect a prime minister, transfer power peacefully to another prime minister. And despite all this, did not meet the standard of a British citizen, Sir Andrew Cohen, to unjustly, in his poorly judgment argument, that the people of Southern Cameroon did not meet the criteria, despite the fact that the people of Southern Cameroon has excess surplus in its balance sheet. In fact, with the same period, a citizen can go to the bank in Southern Cameroon and borrow 500,000 CFA. Whereas in La Republique du Cameroun, a citizen has to travel to France to borrow money and save that amount. So which country was politically or economically viable? France, La Republique du Cameroun, or Southern Cameroon? It is quite amazing to see all this going on, and people became purely ignorant of facts. And yet, today, our people become a slave under colonial administration of La Republique du Cameroon. Stay tuned, don't go away. Let's listen to former U.S. Undersecretary of State.
Nation that you call yours,
Ethiopia or anywhere
people
in the
can
world.
do what has been done to our children in West
defend the
Cameroon.
rights of LGBT.
I call it West Cameroon because you will never take it out of our mouths again, because that is a territory in which we believe freedom. To go out on the street and demonstrate is a basic right for us, and that is why we are saying that there are
institutions that weren't really doing anything to bring the two sides together. Could you elaborate on that, because you ran out of time before?
Sure, yes, sir. I understand the Cameroonian government established several commissions, and I'm sorry, I don't know the exact name of it, whether it's the Multicultural Institution for National Reconciliation or something, which on the face of it, there have been a couple of these, but they have not been provided adequate budget, and they have not really done anything, because what the country needs more than anything else is a genuine, open dialogue, probably to include the diasporas of the Cameroonians, because they have a great deal of interest in this. Because, sir, what's happening, both sides are becoming further and further radicalized. Unfortunately, I believe that the president of Cameroon is being told by his hardliners that he can win this thing militarily. There is no way that they're going to win this militarily. The violence is going to get worse in the northwest and the southwest. The arm for an arm, literally an eye for an eye, and the whole world will be blind there. The violence will spread to the West Province. It may even spread to the Littoral Province, which is the large city of Douala. So there has to be something. We are very, very energetically speaking with our allies. That's why I said that we just had in the Security Council this Monday what the United Nations calls an arias, where it's an open debate, and it's so clear that everybody wants to move forward on this. Are sanctions on the table? Everything's on the table moving forward. But we have to bring this situation to an end, else there's a possibility of what happened in Nigeria with Boko Haram. Started as a small movement, and now look at it. And it'd be disastrous for the region if the Cameroonian government turned this thing into yet another type of Boko Haram.
Or Boko Haram could come back into Cameroon. Well, how do you mentioned, that it appears to be spiraling out of control, because the more the security forces clamp down, the more resistance there is in the Anglophone region. So what can we do that we're not already doing?
Well, like I said, the best we can do for right now is just work with our allies to really make the Cameroonian government understand the need for a real dialogue. And if that doesn't happen relatively quickly, then we have to look at the array of other tools we have in our toolkit, because, frankly, the possibility of sanctions is always there. But it's always better to work in concert with our friends before we go in that direction, because the frustrating thing is it is in the interest of everybody to have a national dialogue. The situation will not end militarily. Each day, the atrocities will get worse and worse.
Is permanent separation of the two regions a possibility?
Sir, I don't believe so, because I think that most Cameroonians, including in the southwest and northwest, have a sense of Cameroonianness, and the concept of a separated, what they call Ambazonia, in my view, is not.
The issue on the Anglophone piece, I won't go into detail on that. I think the article plus the video this morning did a very good job of explaining the history of how it got to the point where we are today.
The future will belong to those who embrace
October of 2017, when it came kind of to a head, the Anglophone states said
the future will belong to those who unleash the potential of their people. Or northern Ethiopia, or anywhere in the world. We all must defend the rights of LGBTQI individuals so they can live and love openly without fear, whether it's Chechnya or Cameroon or anywhere. As we steer our nations toward this inflection point and work to meet today's fast-moving, cross-cutting challenges, let me be clear. I am not agnostic about the future we want for the world. The future will belong to those who embrace human dignity, not trample it. The future will belong to those who unleash the potential of their people.
Thank you, Mr. President, the President of the United States addressing the United Nations. And you listened to the former U.S. Undersecretary for African Affairs, and he spoke addressing the U.S. Congress. And after he spoke, and he traveled to La Republique du Cameroun, it hasn't made any sense for La Republique du Cameroun to understand that it's time to yield to the right thing. But unfortunately, this is another four-star U.S. general. Four-star U.S. general speaking, addressing the same U.S. Congress, if not U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate. Let's listen to him again.
The issue on the Anglophone piece, I won't go into detail on that. I think the article plus the video this morning did a very good job of explaining the history of how it got to the point where we are today. In October of 2017, when it came kind of to a head, the Anglophone states said we want to actually form our own state, the Ambazonia state. There have been issues there with atrocities, issues with allegations of law of war issues, and this is something that brings all this to a head. Over the last several months or so, the State Department has put on hold several security force assistance programs. Right before the election in October, I, with the ambassador, went and paid a visit with President Biya, and we had a very direct conversation with him with regards to investigating transparency of these atrocities and appropriate
anywhere in the world.
Since that
we
time,
all must defend the rights of
LGBTQI not to allocate significant money,
so they
but
can
at the same time they've released some money that's been on hold for things like Stan Eagle and Cessna aircraft that assist in the Boko Haram
As we
fight
steer
in
our nations toward this inflection point.
We still have programs that we continue with them, all kind of small engagements as well as exercises. We did have we talked about the state partnership program with Nebraska. We put that on hold, and in conjunction with the ambassador, AFRICOM, we decided not to pursue that because it wouldn't have been a good place for that particular group to be, so we put a halt to that. So the bottom line is right now in Cameroon, they have been a good partner with us counterterrorism-wise, but you can't neglect the fact that they have there are alleged atrocities and what's going on there. And so we continue to take our cues from the State Department and from the ambassador, and our level of engagement will continue, but not get out ahead of what the State Department would say if we have to take other actions. We were very emphatic with President Biya that the behavior of his troops, the lack of transparency, could have a significant impact on our ability to work with them. The issue on the Anglophone piece, I won't go into detail on that. I think the article plus the video this morning did a very good job of explaining the history of how it got to the point where we are today. In October of 2017, when it came kind of to a head, the Anglophone states said we want to actually form our own state, the Ambazonia state. There have been issues there with atrocities, issues with allegations of law of war issues, and this is something that brings all this to a head. Over the last several months or so, the State Department has put on hold several security force assistance programs. Right before the election in October, I, with the ambassador, went and paid a visit with President Biya, and we had a very direct conversation with him with regards to investigation of these atrocities, transparency of these atrocities, and appropriate battlefield behavior. Since that time, the State Department has made the decision not to allocate significant money, but at the same time, they've released money that's been on hold to things like Scan Eagle and Cessna aircraft that assist in the Boko Haram fight in the north. We still have programs that we continue with them, all kind of small engagements as well as
and work to meet today's fast-moving, cross-cutting challenges. Let me be clear.
We put that on hold, and
I am not agnostic.
All right, you all have been watching and listening carefully of the key speaker on the question of Southern Cameroon. In fact, our people are asking the United States Senate. We are asking the U.S. Congress. No doubt about it, the strength and the might of the United States is not comparable to any part of the world. So we are not saying we are not by mistake in the wrong place. We are in the right place, and we are requesting this privilege in the right place. The government of the United States Congress, the U.S. Senate, the White House. Our people need freedom. Our people need freedom to be able to live in their home without coercion, without someone tell them how they should live in their life. We grew in this habit in the 50s and 60s, and we have never thought that at one point in life, from our grandparents to our current generation, that someone will come and tell our parents how we should be able to live in our homes. In this case, Southern Cameroon is asking for the United States that came to recognize the people of Southern Cameroon. Why is it important? United States has a very good relationship with Africa. Although they might be lingering towards Europe. But however, there is one scenario that is very crucial and important that I am bringing this for the understanding. When the United States declared no taxation without a representation, that was the philosophy the United States used against the British government. When the British government were occupying the United States, taxing the people of United indiscriminately, when the said citizens of this United States rise and told Great Britain, no, you cannot be living across the ocean and forcing the people of the United States in extraneous taxation, when in fact there is no elected representative of the United States in the British Kingdom. It's not different from what we are asking the neighboring country, La Republique du Cameroun. There have been over the time forgery, dismantling our people. Until now, we are just what the so-called a province in a foreign nation. A country with a prime minister, head of government, and a cabinet now become a province in a foreign nation. It is quite an abomination. And that is why I am bringing this to the United States, that the people of Southern Cameroon has risen, and they have risen for their freedom and liberty and equality. And therefore, we are asking the United States the help the people deserve. We are fighting because we're fighting a just war, a war that shouldn't have happened in the first place. Should the British government were faithful in their policy towards Africa. Equatorial Guinea is my clear example, because up to now their population is not up to the population of Southern Cameroon. At the time they were also gaining their independence, their population was not 1/10 of the population of Southern Cameroon, and yet they got their independence. Our people were deprived because the British saw the UK, saw France, and more of a prerogative interest to transfer our hegemony to a foreign nation under true indirect supporter, his colonial territory, La Republique du Cameroun. And that is why we find ourselves in this war of self-determination. We have our two prime ministers. That's why I'm showing you underneath the U.S. Congress Speaker. That is Joa, and that is Foncha. And another prime minister is not here in these images. Those are prime minister, head of government in Southern Cameroon. So it is imperative that the United States recognize the people of Southern Cameroon. They can live peacefully. Our citizens are languishing in Nigeria. Why a military dragged on in Southern Cameroon to occupy the Southern Cameroon territory and tell us trash? Let's listen to one of those trash being spoken by that country called the defense minister. Stay tuned, don't go away.
Cameroons that came together. If you are telling us, like the state ministers took here last year and told us that what happened in Cameroon is like dropping a few cubes of sugar into a basin of water. Who is the sugar and who is the water? I'm asking.
or northern Ethiopia, or anywhere in the world. We all must defend the rights of LGBTQI.
Northwest region today for an emergency. The High Military Command and myself, dispatched by the President of the Republic, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, in the aftermath of the bloody and treacherous attacks whereby the defense and security forces have been subject to of late in this region by irredentist separatists, obviously equipped with increasingly sophisticated equipment and benefiting, this is an established fact, from human and external material support. The new paradigm of the security situation, which is already in the process of consolidation in this region, as in that of the Southwest, warrants a change of approach in the action of the defense and security forces. We wish to convey to the biological bereaved families and the large military family, the deep and sincere condolences of the President of the Republic, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, His Excellency Fulbia, and those of the nation following these tragic incidents. We equally extend same condolences to the families of civilian victims, sometimes butchered with incredible barbarity by these armed gangs. The head of state, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, hails and encourages the defense and security forces for their bravery, their tenacity, and their rock-solid morale, which has enabled them to preserve the territorial integrity of the country and thus preserving many human lives in this region. Likewise, he commends and congratulates those of our compatriots who, on a daily basis, braving fear and threats, provide their civic support to the defense and security forces in operations. The in-depth assessment of the situation which we have just carried out will consolidate the achievements of the operations carried out so far. The defense and security forces remain united and closely so in the conduct of operations. Obviously, I cannot give you here the details of the appropriate readjustment.
That was neighboring country, La Republique du Cameroun, the so-called defense minister. That is quite interesting because these questions that are still asking, who is La Republique du Cameroun in Ambazonians? Of course, nobody has given me the clear answer, who is La Republique in Southern Cameroon? When the United Nations specifically requested that the government of Southern Cameroon initiate an urgent discussion with the government of La Republique du Cameroon, at the time that request was being made, there was a government in Southern Cameroon led by the Prime Minister Endele, and there was another Prime Minister subsequently, Jongo and Joa. As a distorted facts as presented by what the so-called the Minister of Defense of La Republique, speaking about territorial integrity, on what grounds does he initiate such a ground? Fabricated stories, fabricated lies. The people of Southern Cameroon just want to restore their sovereign identity and requesting that La Republique du Cameroon pack its luggages out of Southern Cameroon and relinquish its claim over the people of Southern Cameroon. That is what the people are asking. Relinquish your claim and pack your luggage and dislodge yourself and leave. We are, this moment, radically reform our Ambazonian restoration forces throughout Southern Cameroon territory. We will do what it takes. It took United States, 13th state of this great nation, United States, to relinquish the claim of the United Kingdom over the people of the United States. So Southern Cameroon is not exceptionally different to dislodge La Republique du Cameroon. So if you are a citizen of La Republique du Cameroon and you have been sent to Southern Cameroon, I urge you to immediately take out the uniform and immediately surrender at the border of entry. The Ambazonia will welcome to accept every material you present. We will not execute you. But if you step out of the boundary and you step into Southern Cameroon, then you mean business, and we will take you as a crime for leaving La Republique and penetrating Southern Cameroon border. So I'm speaking this evening. I'm also warning La Republique citizens. If you are serving in La Republique military, I urge you to think again. Because those individuals sitting at office, they are more than their parents. Their children are not fighting in the war front. Their children are somewhere in Europe. I can bring the message of this lady. Let me see. I think one of her relatives was killed. Let me see. Where's her? Couldn't get home. But anyway, I think I did show it later area. This lady is screaming, asking. These individuals, their children are in Europe, languishing in a hotel, spending billions of money. Whereas your children are coming to Southern Cameroon. Let them come to Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon has changed. It's not what La Republique used to think we are. All those rubbish that's sending across Southern Cameroon called the tank. Our people are ready to defend themselves as George Washington defended the United States some 200 years ago. Fellow brothers and sisters, we are at war. Let's listen to the colonial president of La Republique du Cameroun. Let's listen to him.
Nation that you call yours,
and love openly without fear.
people can do what has been done to our children in West Cameroon.
Or anywhere.
I call it West Cameroon because we will never take it out of our mouths again, because that is a territory in which we believe freedom. To go out on the street and demonstrate.
About the future, we want
History has not forgotten that Buya was the headquarters.
And that is why we are saying that there are two Cameroons that came together. If you are telling us, like a state minister stood here last year and told us that what happened in Cameroon is like dropping a few cubes of sugar into a basin of water. Who is the sugar and who is the water? I'm asking.
West Cameroon. History has not forgotten that Buya was the capital of Southern Cameroons. And history has not forgotten that Buya was once the capital of German Cameroon. That is why I say that Buya is a historic town. I am proud, very proud to be in Buya. Proud to walk on the same soil like our heroes.
I'm sure that makes sense. It makes sense indeed. It makes sense that him acknowledged that Buya was the capital of Southern Cameroon even during the German colonial era and during the British era, and will be abolished by a new colonial called La Republique du Cameroun. Fellow brothers and sisters, we are at war, and the war is real, and we must stand up and face the reality. Fellow brothers and sisters, welcome to Ambazonian. This is Comrade Fundon Daniel speaking in this great state of Texas. In my conclusion, I want to thank the U.S. Congress. I want to thank the U.S. Senate. I want to thank the president of these amazing nations, that the people of Southern Cameroon cannot overwhelm me. Great, and thank you for your continued job, your effort to see peace. Our people open at any time to meet with you or your appointed representative on the ongoing crisis in Southern Cameroon. We look for peace initiatives. We want to work in collaborations, and we look forward for this great opportunity if you're the President of the White House, President of the United States, provide us, our people, because they are seeking for a peace that they can live in harmony and love for one another. So this is Comrade Fulton Daniel, end this week edition of broadcast. I wish you all a happy weekend. This is Fulton Daniel from the great state of Texas here in the United States. Good night.
Nation that you call
Northern
yours,
Ethiopia, or anywhere
people
in the
can
world.
do what has been done to our children in West
Defend the
Cameroon.
rights of LGBT.
I call it West Cameroon because we will never take it out of our mouths again, because that is a territory